you're not going to beat someone who has more leverage in a better model. Simplicity is often a system in itself, right? So the fewer moving parts, the less leakage a system has. That forces you to stop and take a look at systems. The stats show that once you get past 3 people on a team, the efficiency starts to plummet. It's like if you saw the graph, it would just be like a cliff. Nobody really talks about those kinds of things. But once you wrap your head around it, it's gold, because you can be running something that seemingly looks the same on the outside, but on the inside, it's a totally different beast.
Hey, I have Robb Bailey with me. Robb, I've watched your ascension over the last, I would say, really 4 years of becoming a bellwether in our little microclimate of go high level world. And I think one of the things I noticed about you is we're in the same mental state, which is sort of this freedom world, right? So anyways, you've done a lot of work, and certainly we can talk about my experience with selling agency and stuff like that. But again, I think what would be cool is just to start off with, like, what's on your mind right now?
Hey, hello, listener or watcher. Let me take 1 second of your time to spotlight our amazing sponsor, High Level. Before we dive back into this interview, if you haven't heard, High Level is an amazing tool. It's the ultimate tool for sales and marketing. It's a powerhouse for businesses, especially agency owners and businesses and other types of, let's just call them special entrepreneurs like you, who are trying to make a solution for their clients or their existing customers. It's packed with everything you could possibly need to capture, nurture, and close leads for your clients. And here's the kicker. It doesn't cost any super duper amount of money. You can bring unlimited amounts of clients. One small, couple $100 low flat rate, and you have a whole suite of tools to sell to customers. CRM, funnel builder, website, email creators, course creations, marketing automation, centralized hub for all of your communications between SMS, email, Instagram, and Facebook, and GMB, everything all in one place. That's not all. You get the social media posting, you get the reputation management, analytics tracking, and more. It couldn't get better. It's all white label. So you can take your brand and build your own software company for a couple $100 a month. This is how I built a massive company myself. I started with High Level. 5 years of running a business with this put me into the multi-million-dollar category, along with getting on the Inc. 5000 list. So here's the deal. I'll give you a free hour of coaching. This is a limited opportunity. If you want to sign up for a 30-day trial of using High Level for your business, for your agency, for whatever you want to use it for, a 30-day trial, and I will give you an hour of coaching, again, for a limited time. So all the things that we also bring with this, with training and courseware and all the things that we'll give to you automatically, along with an hour of my time, it can't get any better. Go to coffee.com/signup30 and you can get your free trial of High Level. The link is below, and I hope to see you on the other side. Now it's back to your interview.
Yeah, so you used an interesting word, ascension, because for the past year, I haven't really done a whole lot work-wise. And that was very intentional. Done a few things, but not a whole lot. And the entire goal of that was to prune away things that were no longer serving me in my life. So when you said ascension, the first thing that popped in my mind was I've been doing a lot of spiritual work and a lot of work on my body and my mind, and kind of tuning some things. And oh, look, the bubble. Mm-hmm. So I've ascended in almost every area except for probably what most people would think of in business. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been trying to grow my business. In fact, it's just like totally the opposite. So I've been cutting expenses. I let my last 2 W-2 employees go in December, so like 10 months ago. And I have one VA. I'm down to one VA now, who I'll probably keep forever. She's amazing. She's been with me for a long time. But so I helped my last 2 key employees transition into something better, and they're thriving now, which is great. But I've just been craving like quietness, peace, stillness. And so I hired what I would consider like a spiritual coach, to help me navigate through some of those things. And I flew out of the country to do a couple of experiences, which I'm happy to talk about if that's interesting or appropriate. But really, like, transitioning from, like, I grew up pretty poor, so it was like a big leap to, I wouldn't say poor. We were like lower middle class. Like, you know, I had a great childhood, all things considered. I didn't really want for anything, but it wasn't like we had financial freedom, freedom of choice. We were very much just kind of living paycheck to paycheck. And I had issues around money until I was about 30. Like, I was taught that money was bad, it was evil. And if you fast forward, so it took me a lot just to be able to get in the right mindset to build a business and to be able to serve people in a way where they were getting 10x the value that I was receiving from it, and I was still profiting and thriving. And so that it felt like, you know, lifting a giant boulder above my head to just even get there. So, but what no one tells you is that once you have enough, it's almost like you can achieve burnout. You can stress yourself to death. We feel like we have to constantly keep going, and at a certain point, it becomes counterproductive. Is really what it is. It's, you know, in some area of your life. So I kind of hit a point like that a couple times in my career, and I was like, no, just push through it. Just use the same things that got you here to get you through this, right? But
That's
at a
interesting.
certain point, that no longer serves you. It's not a good strategy. And once I hit that point and got some help from other people around that topic, I've been really focusing on increasing the amount of peace and like white space on my calendar. You know, I've got 3 kids, so I've been spending a lot more time with them instead of, you know, doing God knows what for the business. And that's been incredibly gratifying and fulfilling. And teaching my kids the things around money and you know, around specific topics, especially in Western society, that I learned because it's completely different than the way I grew up. Being able to teach them things around money, like how to have a healthy relationship with money. It sounds so simple, you know, and if you don't have it, or you grew up in a household where money's evil and your parents are constantly fighting over it, or your parents are divorced, or, you know, whatever the case may be, it's hard. It's really hard because you've got like trauma and your subconscious working around these topics, and unraveling it is a beast. So, you know, a lot of these things I just never stopped to really think about, but once I had that white space and that sort of like peace in my life, I was able to kind of like meditate on it and figure out what I really believe around this. Like, what is my truth around this thing? What has my experience been with it, having been on both sides of the equation, right? So it's been a lot of stuff like that, and I think that for, depending on where you're at in life, this either sounds like the best thing you've ever heard or the worst thing you've ever. Like, if I was 20 still, or 25 or 30, you'd be like, this is boring, I'm already falling asleep, I'm out of here, you know, clicking out of this interview. But if you're like 40 or older, everyone's like, yes, like, how did you get there? How did you do that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like the smartest thing ever to be doing and talking about. So it's kind of like a book. You could read the same book when you were 12, you know, and be like, this is not applicable to my life in any way, so you throw it aside. But if it's the timely book that you read that helps you get to that next level and have that epiphany later in life, you're like, this is the best thing I've ever seen or read, right? So it's kind of weird to be doing that, because I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and I was always the guy who's like, you know, my work ethic is what got me here. Not the smartest guy intellectually, don't read a whole lot. I'm not the guy with the fanciest strategy on the planet. I'm like all about simplicity and, like, you know, working hard and doing it your way, doing it in an ethical way. But again, you get to a certain point, it almost like doesn't matter how you get there. When you get there, it's usually not what you thought it was, or it's usually not what people told you it was going to be like, right? So
Yep.
it was very anticlimactic for me personally, like success, like specifically talking about success,
Right.
right? I thought it was like oh, rainbows will be shooting out of my ass by now. It's just really not. That's
Right.
been like that for me. So
Well, and so a lot of people are trying to get to success. And what you did from the very beginning, after you did Gym Launch, and you sort of, or not Gym Launch, but the parallel to Gym Launch.
Yep.
You started the other agency that became successful, a lot easier to deal with, and then you kind of now became the bellwether for Go High Level. You know, obviously starting in parallel with Sean and everybody at the beginning. We're kind of where I think even where I started with Chase. And I always look at this and I think, like, you kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and took on the SaaS responsibility, right? And proved a point, right? Which is that, you know, there's a huge community here. You can develop it, whether it's the affiliate world or the SaaS world. I'm really interested, and I think maybe people listening to this, is that we understand your success, or maybe I understand your success, I should say, in the agency world, and I'm curious about more, and maybe people who should listen to this, about what was the theory that you had around the simplicity of the SaaS model, moving yourself into that, because there's a lot of agencies, I think, that are willing to sell, and we could talk about my story if you want to hear about that, but I'm more interested in kind of what, again, this is a few, but I think, sure, you could sell your agency after you've done a lot of, let's just call it dirty work, right? So I was just like you. We were under the car every day, changing the oil, and all that stuff, and really, you know, developing an understanding of what the customer life value is and what you really are getting into if you're doing the agency work at you know, sort of the SMA or SMM sort of level. But the question, I think, is, okay, so transitioning, right? So now we're all into this model where easy, repeatable, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to think about it, I don't want to know about it. Part of the reason why you're at the state, I think, where you're at, which is you have this freedom lifestyle, is that you've created enough residual income in the back end to have that. So a lot of people are looking for that. Maybe just talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on that, like where your head's at with that, and the structure of kind of what's created that windfall.
Hey, hold up for a second. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. I want to talk to you about one quick thing. I'm creating a $100,000 a month business, a lean business, attracting my dream clients and generating steady income, leads, and converting them with ease. Now, I've done this for the last 14 years. I've literally built a multi-million-dollar business. I've got on the Inc. 5000 list, and I'm going to share all the details with you, all the juicy details, so you can scale your passion, your business, and spend more time with the people that you love, and the more time you can spend with the things you like to do, just like I like to do. So click below. You can join my group by going to the link that's listed below, or just go to coffee.com/follow and follow my journey and learn about what we're doing. There's a lot of exciting things in our community. Please come and join us. Back to the show.
yeah, okay. So starting with the simplicity part, I was lucky enough to stumble upon someone who understood, and this person was and still is to a degree my mentor, and we've become friends. So his name is Nick Peterson. He actually helped, he was kind of the behind the scenes guy who helped craft the whole Gym Launch system with Hormozy. And he's kind of just like this mad scientist. He's very brilliant. He doesn't like being on the front end or anything like that, but he's just constantly churning out content and books, and you know, he's a true serial entrepreneur, but definitely a behind the scenes type guy, right? And he has this really unique way of teaching how to think about systems, and it's so simple that you probably, again, this is like, if you're just starting out, it's very easy to skip over. But if you've done things the traditional way, let's call it, of like trading time for money in your business, which is where most people start, you don't think systems because you need food on the table. Like, you need to make your rent, you need to, you know, provide for yourself and your family. So you just blow through it, right? But once you're able to breathe and you stop and look and you go, gosh, you know, I only have so many hours in the day, only have so much energy in the day. And, this thing isn't quite giving me back what I'm putting into it. Then you have to realize that you are operating within a system, right? It might be a poorly run one or one without thought, but you are the system. Your behavior around it, the way you've created it, all that stuff, it's all on you, right? So my very first agency was call it a 7-figure failure agency, because we were just trying to beat the model up by working harder. And you can't do that when you're trading time for money, because I don't care if you work 16-hour days, you're not going to beat someone who has more leverage and a better model.
Correct.
Right? So that forces you to stop and take a look at systems. And so there's 2 principles that Nick helped me understand better. The first principle is that simplicity is often a system in itself, right? So the fewer moving parts, the less leakage a system has, right? And so just by so you have a team, right? There's studies that have been done on this, through the nose. I mean, they're crazy. You can just Google them. But there's studies that have been shown that complexity of any sort, so complexity of team size, complexity of scope of work, complexity of piecing together 9 different softwares, the volume has a direct impact on decreasing the efficacy of the system. So just by the function of having 100,000 employees versus 3, well, the stats show that once you get past 3 people on a team, the efficiency starts to plummet. It's if you saw the graph, it would just be like a cliff going off the edge there. And that's just the way things are. I didn't make that, you didn't make that. That's just the way that it is. And so if you look at all the examples they have in these studies, I think at my agency's peak, I had, in my second agency, the one that was in the fitness niche, we peaked at 12 people on our team. And it was so inefficient that it bothered me, because I now knew this kind of thing. And we were still running a really simple model, but there was just so many people involved with the with operation that it was if we just had high level during that time, for example, we could have gotten it down to 3 people and it would have run better than the 12 people. So imagine cutting your team from 12 down to 3, including me, right? So it'd be me and 2 people. And just being we can serve our clients better. And in fact, our capacity increased and the results increased. The amount that we could charge increased as a result of that, right? So not only could I have had a smaller team, less cost to me, which means more take-home profit, but the system itself became more efficient just by the sheer number of people that you cut down to, right? So simplicity has real math logic and statistical analysis behind it. Simplicity being smaller, it's just better in every way, right? And so I started off kind of wrapping my mind around that concept that way, and said, okay, I'm just going to shoot for simplicity from now on, right? So that just means in my decision-making processes, I've added that as a constraint, right? Anytime someone comes to me, it could be $1 billion idea, and I'm like, if it's not simple, I really kind of don't want to be involved with it, right? And that's most things. I mean, I had a friend call me this morning. I'm like, hey man, I'm just letting you know, I'll listen to whatever you have to say. I'm happy to support you either way. And the answer is probably going to be no, just because I'm looking for a very specific swim lane to operate within if I take anything on. And it just so happened that his concept is incredibly simple. And I was like, okay, that means we can take the next step. And I'm surprised to hear it, to hear that you've got something that's simple that's working this well so far. So my curiosity is allowing me to take the next step. But, I've said no to plenty of things that I want to do knee-jerk reaction-wise that weren't simple because of that reason purely, right? So it's affected my decision-making process in almost every way, and my life has gotten better since that. The second part of it is when you look at systems from a percentage efficiency standpoint, if you just think about high level for a second, it's like, what were people doing before high level? Well, I had ClickFunnels, Infusionsoft. I was using Scipio for two-way business texting. We had some other tools in there. We were pasting all these things together. And this concept of loss of efficiency is huge. So like, even if your tech stack, for example, let's say your team is one person, 3 people, it's still pretty simple, but you're still pasting together all these tools. Well, if like ClickFunnels works 91% of the time the way that you thought it would, and Scipio works 91% of the time, it's not a 91%, and you paste those two tools together, it's not a 91% efficiency rate. You have to multiply the two. The number gets much lower, right? Your net efficiency rate goes down fast. And again, by the sheer number of things that you add to that, if it's not 100% working all the time, it's multiplicative, it's exponential, it's not additive, right? So anyone who's ever tried to paste a bunch of tools together and connect them with something like Zapier, like one zap breaks, it's like the whole thing, it stops working or stops working the right way. Same thing, really. And then it's like a rat's nest that you got to work through and try to find where the problem is, right? So when the high level came out, it's like, all in one tool. I don't know, Robin. I've seen a lot of things like this. They try to do it, they poorly execute on it, but it's got to work better than pasting the tools together. That's what I know about it. And he showed it to me, and I was like, wow, you guys are doing a really good job with this. And this was back when like Varun, one of the 3 co-founders, was coding everything himself. So I was like, put this in maybe, and do it this way, and this would really help, raise the capacity and get the clients the best result and really benefit the agency owner. He'd be like, okay, like we'll get back on tomorrow. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, no, I'm going to code this up tonight. Tomorrow it'll be done. Mm-hmm. Like that's how high level started.
Of course. Yep.
And they just kept making it better and better. So it's like a lot of people take a look at high level, and the first thing they say is, well, the funnels aren't as good looking as ClickFunnels, or the visual builder isn't as sexy as this other tool, and the user interface doesn't look as good, and things like that. And in my mind, I just think, yeah, so what? And the reason why I think that is because I know that the net efficiency of all those tools being in one place on that platform is netting them something like 98-99% efficiency. And if they went to go paste all those other tools together, they'd be somewhere in the like 60s, 70s, or 80s, right? So a turning point for me in my career was understanding this concept and what that meant to other people. Like if I was to observe myself slightly above, like, I'm sitting in this office right now, if I was to observe me talking to you in this office, how does that simple principle affect my life? Well, I've got 3 kids, they're in sports, I got to take my mom to the doctor later this afternoon, all this stuff. My system is up and running, right? My system is up and running, and it's doing most of the heavy lifting and most of the work while I'm doing other things, because the system still works, right? The reliability is there. So if you look at those concepts, and in my opinion, they're not even really business concepts. That's the thing, is like nobody really talks about those kinds of things. But once you wrap your head around it, it's gold, because you can be running something that seemingly looks the same on the outside, but on the inside, it's a totally different beast. There's James Clear from Atomic Habits wrote this quote in the book. He said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Which is a fantastic quote. It's like, and I'm taking a little bit out of context, but not much. But like, if I need to take off for a month, like I went to help my mom move from San Diego out to where we live in Alabama now. I took off 3 weeks to go out there and help her move her whole life out here to be closer to us and the kids. And my business did better that month than the previous year without my being there.
Sure.
So we had a better month year over year, because the systems were still working and they were even making things better on their own, right? So to me, it's like, I don't care what industry you're in or what you're doing, it's like you have to find some leverage at some point around this concept. It could be through your team or employees, it could be through software or tech, it could be through some other form of leverage. Like if I have some friends who are in financial services, they do crypto, or they trade stocks, or what's the other one? Contracts, options, stuff like that. And it's like they all use things that give them leverage for this. So like if they're out to dinner, they put a stop loss in for like a trade so that they don't get, they don't have to be sitting there on their phone watching the thing go up and down until it hits a certain point, and they use software to do that. So that's a system. That's an example of a system. I don't know anything about trading, but I know that those guys who are using things like that have a huge advantage over people that don't. Right?
Very true. And so if we go back to and that was great explanation of structure around thought process of organizing simplicity. When you were sort of going through your Go High Level sprout, just for people who may not know your scope, how many subscribers do you think you added personally or through your affiliates into their network? And then from a SaaS perspective and from an affiliate side, I'm just curious because you've been in the running on these, engagements of their, let's just say, gamification of their business.
Yep.
Maybe give a little bit of scope on this so people understand the size of your, the ability that you have or had. That I know it's not maybe as aggressive now, obviously, but just can you throw some of the general numbers out so people see or hear your kind of veracity that you originally had?
Yeah, so I sold my second agency, the fitness agency that was Jim Launch's biggest competitor, I guess, or close to it, if not that. I sold that about 3 months after Robb and Alex, one of the co-founders from High Level, said, hey, I've got this beta tool. You and some other agency owners that I know, I want you guys to kick the tires, get in there for free, try to break stuff, give us feedback, like all that stuff. So when he approached me, I was in talks to possibly sell my agency, and I honestly didn't think it was going to go through. I got really lucky. My CPA introduced me to a guy who was already in the fitness niche, and I was able to sell that agency for what was like a pretty fair price. It wasn't a home run, I think, for me to retire off of, but it was like a double, right? It's pretty good. But then, now I have no monthly cash flow to pay my bills, and, I don't want to eat into that egg, so to speak. So I'm like, what am I going to do next, sort of thing. But so here for me, this was very practical. Like I'm super practical. That's probably the most, in the clouds part that you're ever going to hear from me, unless we start talking about something else. But business wise, I'm super practical. So Robin's like, how many gyms do you have that you're doing two-way texting for? So again, this is like 6 years ago, approximately 6 years ago. And I go, well, we've got like 225 to 240, just kind of depends on the month. And these are locations. So gym owners that have hired us, our agency, to help them generate new business, right? And I was like, I'm paying $44,000 a month to just Scipio, right? That's not even including our ClickFunnels and Infusionsoft subscriptions and stuff like that. But in the gym niche, we had to have two-way texting. It's just like the best channel by a mile, right? So I'm like, they keep telling me I'm talking about Scipio. Scipio keeps saying they're going to fly me out. They keep saying they're going to figure out a way to compensate me more for bringing them customers, like as an affiliate. They keep saying all this. They're going to build an agency dashboard so we don't have to log in and out of every separate account to answer the messages, which is what we were doing. That's why I needed 12 people on my team, right? I had 5 or 6 of them just doing that all day. They'd log into one account for one location, answer all the messages that were there, respond to prospects, try to book them in, and then log out of that account, go to the next person, and they'd do that for up to 50 locations, and then I'd instruct them to go back to the beginning and check on, and they would just do that all day. It was terrible. Mind-numbing work, right? Very repetitive, very tedious. And I never asked them to do anything I hadn't done myself, but I'd done enough to be like, if we're going to scale this, we just need help. We need helpers, right? So from a practical standpoint, when Robin said, like, the spit out your coffee moment around high level was, he said, yeah, you can do in limited locations with that for like $300 a month plus Twilio usage. And I'm like, what? And so that sounded so crazy to me that I was like, I don't think this is going to work. Like, I don't understand how y'all are going to make the economics of this work. If that company
we all
says,
thought. Yep.
yeah. And that was a very common thought process at the time. And to Sean and Robin's credit, and maybe Vern's too, I don't know, but he's like, coding most of the time. But they had a vision for this, and they stuck to their guns. The amount of people that are doing way better than we were 6 years ago, who told them that it wouldn't work and the reasons why, or the list was long and the list was credible, right? Like I heard multiple times from other people, and they would ask me, and I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the same thing you are, but they're doing it, right? So after they came out of beta, well, let me tell you the beta story real fast. So I kind of stuck my neck out for them. I said, look, this thing works better than Scipio, and the agency dashboard is going to allow me to take my team down to like, almost 0 people doing this, right? And our capacity will increase, and we're getting better results because we're getting back to the messages faster, right? So the experience of the prospect that our clients hired us to help to nurture along to a point of sale, that's getting better because we're quicker, we're much more organized, there's less loss. So we just kept like making it better and better and better. And I was just sitting there going like, gosh, I got to figure out a way to, take care of these people, but let them go. Like, and so, at that exact moment, I was like, I'm going to tell everybody about this and just see where it leads. So they said, well, can we fly down there? And at the time I was hosting these little workshops, people would pay $5,000. Other agency owners would come, and I would teach these agency owners our model, right? And so we had a workshop coming up, and they're like, hey, we're ready to start selling. We think the beta's gone well enough with the handful of people we know, and we want to put this in front of people who don't know anything about us. Because I knew Robin fairly well, and I'd met Sean by that point and built some rapport with him, and I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing, right? But they're like, we want to fly down there, drop in cold, do an hour-long pitch, and at the end, we'll see if people will buy it cold. But like at your workshop, your audience, Rob. I said, all right, perfect. And at the time, I was like, my expectation was nothing. I was like, if you guys end up selling a bunch of subscriptions from this, we'll figure out, compensation later. And they were like, oh, we'll get you your affiliate stuff. No problem. So they fly in, they do an hour-long talk. By the end, I had, there was like 40 total people. About half of them were remote on Zoom, and the other half were there live in the tiny conference room. Every single person there raised their hand, and they could not wait to buy it. So they sold 40 out of 40 seats. And no one, like, to give you context, they didn't even have a payment link ready. It was like, guys, everybody wants to buy. Where's the payment link to buy? And they're like, oh, we're gonna have to work on that and get back to you guys. And I was like, what? Like, come on, guys. Like, you flew down here, I could put the workshop on, the whole 9 yards. And so that was kind of a funny moment where I was like, geez, man, get your act together. If you really think this is going to be $1 billion company, like,
right. Right.
And so I still give them crap for it to this day on that. But it just goes to show you how necessary something like this was at the time. I mean, it feels like we were malnourished compared to now.
Yes. Totally
understood. To have Go High Level at our fingertips, right? The old way I was doing it seems archaic, and that was just 6 years ago. So after that workshop, I went to bat for them, and I said, hey, this is converting like crazy. I'm going to continue to try and put people into this. We're going to create a knowledge product around it. That turned into a coaching program. But for about the first year, I was the only affiliate that was putting people into, I wasn't the only one, but I was the only one doing volume, right?
Correct. So
I want to say the first 10 months, my affiliate commissions were growing by $5,000 a month-ish, give or take. And then I just continued to stay consistent with it. They also approached me at one point during the first year and said, hey, can you go and recruit some other people who have audiences and
Right.
Then signed up on the affiliate program. So I do make a little bit of override, as anybody does with their affiliate program, which is great. And so I got to go and talk to my friends and people that I didn't know, and talk to other cool entrepreneurs about it, and see if they had interest in promoting it as well. So those were the two main ways: was me promoting it to everyone I knew. I created a bit of a coaching program around that, and then I sold my agency, so I had all this free time. And then the other part was, networking with cool people who maybe wanted to do what I was doing. And that was it.
How many affiliates do you think you have? And I know that you're doing some other stuff, but to look at the number of $4.1 million of a monthly payout this month from Go High Level, right? Which was, to me, I was like, what?
Yeah.
$50 million a year of affiliate commissions are going out through High Level now, and probably will be more by the end of this, sector where we are. So, again, I'm just trying to understand. Do you still have SaaS clients as well that you support, or is it just the kind of the affiliate world? Because I guess that would be that's kind of dovetailing to my next question, but I'm just curious, you've sort of now curtailed like most of that, unless you're coaching or doing something specific, for a higher level function. So, that residual income from basically being the OG of the, affiliate world for High Level. I mean, there's got to be a lot of people that are part of your structure, and a lot of the first level, second levels too, right? I would think.
Yeah. So I have several thousand people, and it's
nuts.
It's nuts. And so I make, just for those that don't know, High Level has a 40% commission structure for the life of the refer that you bring in. So let's say that Matt's not on High Level, and I approach him and I say, hey, there's this cool new tool, you got to try it, use my affiliate link. When he signs up and pays $300 a month, I get 40% of that as the affiliate for bringing a customer to High Level. The reason why that works for High Level is because they had vision of doing this from day one. I got to credit the founders for sticking with this. But they were like, we're not going to hire a marketing team, we're not going to hire a sales team. And everything that we do is going to be product led, which means that, I think Wesley over there is in charge of marketing. He does a great job, but for having 1,000 employees to have one marketing guy is unheard of, like for a $1 billion valuation company. And so they're happy to cut that check because it's two reasons. Number one, they want to run a really lean product-led company, meaning like 9 out of 10 hires are developers. And I think probably most of the rest of the 10% are customer service people.
Mm-hmm.
So they just don't have a lot of bloat with marketing, sales, admin. Like when you go to the High Level Summit next week or in 10 days from now, where I go, Sean and Robin and Bruin will be out there dancing with us, talking to people at the bar. They're not like hiding in some glass, what do you call it? Like a box office or something up in their glass tower. Like that's not how they roll. They're going to be in jeans and sneakers with a High Level shirt on, and they're going to be in there talking to you, and they want to genuinely get to know who you are and what you're doing. Right? That's how they roll. So culturally, it fits perfectly for their personality. So it benefits them that way. But the second way that is because it's more philosophical. They believe that the missing component is you. So the difference maker is Matt Coffey using High Level. It's not that their product is so great that they want all the shine, they want all the credit. It's kind of very anti-guru, to be honest. There's a lot of other marketing software companies where it's very like guru-ish, and that they're like, that's not what we believe. Our belief is that when you white label this thing and you put your brand on it, you deserve all of the credit for going out there and bringing all this commerce into your own ecosystem, and you should be able to keep that, right? So they have this philosophy that you are the person that makes this whole thing work, right? And so when for me as an affiliate, like the reason why I have this fantastic recurring revenue, and is because person by person, I put that effort in to help them get a good result on the software. And I've found, and this is something that you guys are like welcome to use, I've just found that if you help somebody make a little bit of money at the beginning, they'll probably never quit the tool after that. If they can see the light, they've hit some sort of activation point psychologically, their belief has gone up. And so Sean's whole stance on that thing is like, you deserve to get paid for life because you brought that person in, Rob. And if they ever need anything, they're going to look to you. And you're still there, continuing to support them, etc. And I do, but it's not like they don't call me for technical support. They call high level, right? If they're like, hey, I'm running a database reactivation, or this lead nurturing campaign isn't performing, and they write a question in my group, me and others in there will get it answered, right? So I built this ecosystem around Sean and company's vision that you are the person who should be benefiting the most from the commerce that you're creating with your clients, right? And so that's why the affiliate program works. It's not just one reason, but that's the reason why they stuck to it, was like their company mantra and their philosophy about how all this should look lends to that model best, right? So in Sean's mind, and think about this, right? Let's say you get a typical SaaS valuation from a company, and let's say they make $1 million a year and they're getting a 20x SaaS valuation, right? So if I bring in $10,000 that year, they're happy to part with $4,000 of it to me, right, for bringing that person in, because they're getting a 20x valuation on top of that, right? So they're getting a $2 million, bump in equity valuation on that. So they're like, pay Rob $4,000, fine, right? So, it's like when you start thinking about things like that, it makes sense. It's like he wants for you to do so well with this that you never quit, right? That could be your affiliate, the high-level customer, and the high-level customers, clients and customers, right? So that has done so well, I can't even tell you. It's a big reason why they've grown so quickly. It's because once people sort of wrap their head around this, that it's all about them. It's not about the leaders of this software company. People get a lot more personally invested, and they stay invested, right? And so that's kind of why it's worked that way. So, but beyond that, I've just been consistent for 6 years. So if you understand compounding interest, let's say, I kind of combined my systems approach with, hey, this compounding concept, meaning like the 40 people that I signed up at that first workshop are still paying, and I'm still getting paid from that.
Yes.
The benefit, right?
Yeah.
So every month, my goal is just to increase my recurring revenue through high level, one affiliate customer at a time.
That's fascinating. I wanted to talk about the split of most people's thoughts. So let's talk about the big opportunity here, right? So someone's listening to, okay, great, this is fantastic, Rob, amazing. But there's a split here, right? Because there's the SaaSpreneur world, right? Which is the, hey, add the 97, 297, 497 to my go high level scenario, which is a real discussion. And I've had a lot of calls that I've fielded about this particular division. And then there's the affiliate, right, which is teaching people and necessarily being part of that sort of coaching program. And they kind of split into different, caveats. So I'd love to understand where you think the big opportunity is and what you see from your perspective on both of these. If you could just enlighten maybe the listener or the person who's watching this.
Yeah, so I think the biggest opportunity, well, the real answer is it depends. It depends on you. Like, given what I just said, if I said anything else than that, it would be a lie, right? But there's like 9 or 10 different ways you can turn this into an opportunity, depending on your preferences, what your income goal. Like for me, I make 6 figures a month recurring now, and I just never thought that it would ever get that high. Like Sean told me a number below 6 figures that he thought I could get to in a few years, and I just laughed at him. I'm like, there's no way, man. If that happened to me, I'd just be like, I don't even know. It would feel like I won the lottery. And it kind of does, but like...
Right, but let's define that. That's 6 figures that has nothing to do with you doing any physical labor.
Correct.
And that's what people need to understand. So that the affiliate side has created enough, and again, you're an OG, so this is a unique situation to a degree. However, there are other similar scenarios, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So yes, 100%. But for people on the SaaS side, I'm also wondering what you think on that opportunity side is like, because a lot of agencies, right?
Yeah.
Who have gotten to a certain point where they've either said, you know what, I'm doing a lot of work, I'm being forced into the labor camps of SMA or SMMA, and now, does the SaaS model represent a better pool of ideas that create a better length of time in this space where I'm not as condoned into driving that behavior of representative of performance as opposed to tool management? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that side of the equation.
Sure. So in my opinion, if you're talking about agency services versus software, I've always taught and recommend that people take a hybridized approach. So what does that mean, right? It means I think that pure SaaS is very difficult. Like, you can make it work. We've seen people make it work. Typically, the people that do the best with pure SaaS, they either have a large customer base that they migrate over, or they build it up over time. So it takes time, and that's the part that people I think mistakenly overlook. Like, if you started your own SaaS, you'd be in the shitter for like 2 years, meaning like cash flow would be negative. You'd have to be putting resources in, and then all of a sudden someday you'd hit this break-even point, and everything after that is profit. That's why the SaaS model is so great. It's like, if you can just get there, it's fantastic after that, right? But most people don't have a 2-year runway or a 1-year runway. I didn't. I was like, I gotta eat, gotta pay the bills, So it's like, what do you do in the meantime? Drive an Uber while you do that? Well, most people aren't willing to do that. The reason why I like a hybridized approach is because it's kind of the best of both worlds. And so I call it software with a service, or SWAS. And so my whole thing is, over the years, helping local business clients and training a bunch of agency owners and helping people develop their high level and deploy it, what I've observed is that if you can just get a person a win, like a lighthouse win, meaning something that's tangible that maybe they've never achieved before, or that they're achieving with more ease, less cost, something like that. The quicker that you can do that, the easier everything else becomes. And usually you have to do that through somewhat of a service, right? So software with a service, it's like my favorite strategy is what's called database reactivation. So I teach the agency owner, hey, you gotta give them something like a quick win for the client so that you can now build in this retainer, right? And if you blend your service in with the software, if they ever call you up one day to quit and you've got all this goodness happening on the platform, you say, hey, okay, but do you want to keep the platform still? Because that's the thing that's the system that I've installed that is working for you day in and day out. You don't have to be there answering the phone. You don't have to be there answering the text messages. Do you want me to turn that off? And that feels like going back to the Stone Ages for a client, right? Like, I don't know why it keeps doing that, but like if you
it's unique. I've never seen it happen before. I don't even know if that's existing behind this platform or if it's on your existing camera.
I think it's Zoom. It's got to be Zoom, right, or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Right.
But anyways, so the like when people say, hey, I'm just going to run a pure SaaS play and I'm just going to dump this in the average small business owner's lap, I'm like, dude, they're going to quit, man. They're not even going to get started. And the numbers show that, right? But if you come in and you say, hey, I'm going to turn on missed call text back, for example. So I'm going to turn on one feature that High Level provides for you. I'm going to make sure it works. I'm going to install it for you. We're going to get it all set up. And then you're going to start to see that, you're recapturing 3 customers a day, 5 customers a day, 10 customers a day. So by the end of that first 30 days with you, they can see that they've recaptured, let's just call it 60 or 100 missed calls that they would have otherwise just never captured, right? Mm-hmm. So saying, okay, I got all these new sales from this, or this new revenue that's been captured from something that I wasn't doing before, right? So that I recommend that most people hybridize it, because once that's on, guess what you have to do? You just have to keep paying your high-level bill. The thing's been installed, turned on, it's working, the client loves it. That's when you stop hearing from the client and they just pay you forever. right?
And
But that's
that's
different than just dumping the software in their lap, going, look, it does a million things. Have fun. Here you go. Get to work, Mr. Client. Right?
Yeah, and that's interesting because I think there are a lot of people like what we've experienced in the past who've started agencies only thinking about Facebook ads and running a performance agreement. Very difficult to go backwards and say, hey, pitch the client differently, right?
Yeah.
Which is, don't pitch performance, pitch a tool.
Yeah.
Right? You're selling a rig, not how many leaves it's going to make in a pile. So I'd love to hear what your experience has been. And again, we won't spend more than needed time on this, but on convincing people to move to SaaS, because there are a lot of people who perhaps need to think about that. And I'm curious on your experience with that.
Well, you know, I think selling the tool, again, it's like the tool with an asterisk, right? It's like, you don't need all the features that the tool provides. It's like, you know, have you ever seen that stick? There's a story, it's almost like a fable, I think, about a guy who goes to Africa, and the guy sees all these tribal people using this like specially shaped stick to dig holes in the dirt. And he's like, man, you guys would just be so much better off if you had pickaxes and shovels and like all the tools we're used to getting at Home Depot. And so he breaks his back going to get a shovel or whatever, comes back out and realizes that that tool just doesn't work as well as the stick that they've developed, because the earth is just too rigid, too solid, not soft enough, etc. And so I think that you just have to be careful with that mindset around the tool and understand that, like, you're helping them improve their systems, right? So if you come into a client and say, hey, we want to replace your entire CRM, that's like saying, hey, I think this shovel works better than your stick, but I have no way of like really knowing that until we try it. But I want you to pay for this and go through all the pain and suffering of like switching everything over just to find out that maybe it doesn't work as well. So my whole take on it is use the tool to produce an outcome that is predictable, that, you know, basically you just have to do the work once to help the client install it, and then you get paid in perpetuity. So Chase calls this, Chase, the head product guy at High Level, who used to work for you or with you, he calls this, you know, keeping the utility bill on, right? Like keep the lights on, make it the utility bill. So missed call text back is a great example of that. Like I helped a coaching client of mine just replace forms on websites. He helped roofers, and a lot of roofers have their own website. They don't want to move off platform. They don't want to, you know, change their entire operating system. All you do is go and replace the form so that they would get a text message and that they could call the client right away. And he's charging $750 a month just for that one feature, right? So you just kind of have to be careful about it, because it, like when you say the tool, High Level has probably 50,000 things it can do.
Sure.
Right? But to me, if you just solve the speed to lead problem for most businesses, meaning like recapturing leads, following up with the leads quicker, also known as lead nurturing, if you create a booking system from like the social DMs or text message conversations or both, like those are all things that the average small business owner is not doing. I'm saying like 99 out of 100 aren't doing that. You just call them up and be like, did they answer the phone? If no, did I get a text? If I go to their website and type in this form, do I get a response quickly? Those things will increase their bottom line by nature of just increasing the speed of the follow-up, right? That's why we call it speed to lead. And or another great example is the website chat widget, right? So helping them recapture more website visitors and turning those into sales conversations. All of these things are crazy valuable to the average small business owner and local business owner, and almost no one's doing it out there. So if you took an x-ray of the country in the small business and local business landscape, it would literally look like a blue ocean, right?
For sure.
So again, it's like, are we talking about building complex workflows and, you know, massive automation overhauls, massive CRM work? No, it's like, just complement what they're already doing and meet them where the point of sale, where your tool increases their point of sale activity, and they'll keep paying for the rest of because think about it, like if you added 10% of their revenue for $700 a month, are they ever going to not want to take that trade? You know, the answer is no. You don't want to get caught sitting there saying, hey, I promise that I will sit there and text message every client back for you. No, it's like my system will do that, right?
So question for you, and I think you're kind of now skirting around where I wanted to get a rodeo of questions that would make sense for you because of your experience. You're dealing with a lot of people coming on board to look at this as an opportunity, like as a new agency, or someone who's basically saying, hey, guess what? You could start your own software company for $300 a month or whatever, right? And are you seeing the demand curve on that extend, go up, go faster, go slower? Because obviously with Go High Level's recent investment announcement, I'm sure they would love to say, hey, we're going to turn everybody into a software company, right? So I'm just curious, given the fact of where we are in the gestation of this period of time, and the fact that you've been doing this and seen this growth curve over the last umpteen years, what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, so the growth is happening in different segments now. So initially, like when High Level first started, it was almost all agency owners who helped local businesses, right? Fast forward 6 years, and a lot of it right now is in the creator space and or the coaching and consulting space. That's where a lot of the next wave of people who are coming over is. And some of those people are just signing up to use it for their own business, and some of those people are signing it up to be like, hey, instead of sending you out into the wild and having you create all these systems and landing pages and funnels and funnel automation, all this stuff, I'm just gonna slap my logo on it and resell my system again. So it goes back to me. My IP as the coach
1 p.m.
stays with me, right?
Right.
So again, going back to this thing where it's like, if you look at like some of these people who have traditionally taught, like, the coaches who coach the coaches in the internet marketing space.
Sure.
Yeah, like a lot of those guys were like sending people off to places like ClickFunnels and Kartra and Infusionsoft, or Keep, whatever they call it now, and not really getting a whole lot back in return, besides all these people coming back and saying, hey, I'm lost, I don't know what to do with this, can you help me, right? So at a certain point, it just gets easier for that type of person. Let's say they have, a couple of hundred high-ticket coaching clients at one time, and these people are in all different kinds of niches, but there's a common denominator in that they need funnels, they need automation, follow-up, email sequences, text messages, sales pipelines. It's like they all need that stuff to grow that type of business, right? So the person, the brand of that thing is saying like, hey, I'm gonna get my brother or my operations guy or whatever to go and put all of our IP into High Level, call it my awesome system, right? And then just charge people $300 a month, $500 a month, whatever it is, instead of sending them off and again pasting together 9 different tools, right? So it's a lot easier for that kind of person to drive a result for their clients and get them a quick win if they have a little bit more control over that, and the IP is basically just cloned right into the sub account for their customer, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And so this parallels to, we were talking about Hormozy, we're talking about that sort of world that now is in school. How much has school impacted your life with having the ability to bring on new coaching clients through that affiliate structure, using that sort of new kind of, I almost feel like it's I'll say this loosely, but if you looked at what happened with some of the social media tools, there was a growth spurt also, and then people were able to make like a lot of, let's just say, advancement, but they don't, like an Easter egg level of advancements, because they were in the beginning stages of a tool's growth.
Yes.
Right? So if you jumped on TikTok early, or you jumped on the, there's a myriad of different tools. But do you feel that helps with where you are? Because you're one of the largest groups for this environment in that space.
Yeah, so I mean, so this is, I'm actually fairly tool agnostic. Like I don't really, I'm like, whatever the best tool at the time is, go ahead and use that. You know, I just keep it crazy simple. And at the time, I was starting to see Facebook's reach decrease in my Facebook groups. And, you know, before High Level existed, I was always in Sam Evans' masterminds and programs and stuff like that. And so when school came out, you know, I was one of the first people to hop on and all that stuff. So I was there early too. But the migration of the Facebook groups over to school, again, at that time, I was like, I don't think this is going to work, but I'm going to try and see. And what happened with school that I think is brilliant is it solved multiple problems for people. And I've talked about this with a handful of my friends who are in, you know, early in the high level days. But like, you know, school is really smart about a few things. So they're not going to be competing with high level directly or vice versa. But school had a different vision, right? So this is important to understand for people. It's like, if you're looking at something that's like a tool that's early, you kind of have to like take an x-ray of it and go, okay, who is this for and what is their vision for executing this? Because if this is just ends up being another tool in the toolbox, it's not going to have the same gravitas as something that really nails the why behind it, right? And I know that sounds sort of intangible, so I'll break it down a little bit, but like, so Sam had this vision for still helping the info, like he loves the info product space. So this tool was built specifically for that niche, right? High level is a little bit more open-ended. You know, it's like, you know, the agencies and the businesses that high level attracts, they can do anything with the tool. It's like the amount of automation and workflows and like, you know, channels that they've added. It's just like the possibilities are near infinite with high level, right? So it was very intentionally done that way. With school, you can tell a huge difference between, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not saying one's better or worse, but like school ships like maybe one new feature every 6 months. High level ships 5 to 7 a day, sometimes like 12 a day, right? So it's a different purpose. School's purpose was to say, hey, instead of connecting Kajabi and Facebook groups and your payment processor and like all this stuff, we are going to consolidate it, but it's very much going to be about this like information product business, right? So it's not just for community owners, which Facebook kind of has, you know, the market on. It's like, no, we want for people who want to make money from their community, which cuts that audience way down to be way more specific, right? So that's the beach they wanted to storm. Sam's like, I'm done with my mastermind and my coaching programs and selling you know, all the consulting.com products that he had created, courses, whatnot. He's like, I just want to make the tool that helps people sell more of their stuff, right? So when he did that, he had this vision and he said, well, there's a community element, but I want like a classroom component and a community component and a calendar component. And I want to make those things better by putting it all in one system. But what else do they need? So that one of the most genius things that Sam did was he said, coaches and consultants notoriously are terrible with email. It's like a pain point for people who've done it. And they're terrible with organic search, right? So how do you get free traffic if you're a coach? It's like very difficult, you know. So he comes in and he goes, I'm going to make SEO kind of a priority. I'm going to make the email, I'm going to handle the email for the person. So it's going to be treated like a second list almost. And we're going to have like 99% deliverability. Like I'm going to handle all that ESP stuff for them. So all they have to do is get people into the community, and then you can email them like once every 3 days, right? And then I'm going to use the community's content to create user-generated content so that school shows up in the organic search results in Google and other search engines, so these coaches can begin to get some more traffic. Then he kind of added this community thing, this community search feature where it's like, where he's like, okay, so also, I know that people buy multiple info products from multiple coaches. So I'm going to make it so that the findability increases via our platform. So if someone's in my Go High Level group, it's very easy to find another person's Go High Level group on School, right? So all these things made it unique. And what I found is that once people got onto it, the simplicity, again, like the simplicity I love of it, because it's like, I don't want to do a million different things. I just want to nail the basics, right? So for people who wanted to do more gnarly stuff like on Circle or like these other platforms, it was like, yeah, we're never going to be that. And I loved how simple Sam kept it. It's one of the reasons why I was gravitated to him as a coach, was he was all about simplicity, right? And so when I started putting people over there, I found that there weren't as many people that would move off Facebook to go in there, but the quality of the type of person that moved over there was way better. Like, it was way higher. So once I sort of was like, okay, this is a better environment for me to execute my courses and my community and everything, then it was just a matter of like kind of giving people a good reason to come there, to move over there, right? So that took about a year. I'm not gonna lie. We were actively trying to get people to move over. It wasn't super hard, but it took effort,
Do you think that that's the model now that maybe people could look at if they're interested to mature their way of doing things, where it could be, hey, take your audience, get them into School, and then get them into an affiliate relationship with Go High Level, and then you can sort of centrally manage them out of that?
Yes.
Function.
So I actually help people do that. And one of the things that I started doing, which anybody can do, I'll just give you this one, is I started paying more attention to the SEO component. So my VA will take the high level releases. So high level will make like essentially an internal post about each new feature that they ship, and they kind of have like a format for that.
Yep.
And so my VA will go in and snag all those for the day and turn them into School posts in the community, so that people in my community can see it when they're in the app, but they also get an email digest of it based on their choosing. It could be daily, weekly, whatever they want. So they basically get an update from that. And then what it does is, like, in my community, somebody starts Googling like Go High Level, SMS feature or whatever. I start to have multiple posts that are ranking for that specific topic, which leads them into my community. Once they're in my community, I have a chance to put them on my list, possibly sell them something, get them to sign up for a high level or upgrade their high level plan, both of which me and every other affiliate can benefit from, right?
Right.
So there's multiple ways to benefit from that, basically. And I think that's so simple that most people probably will skip over it. It's like, again, it's just one of those things, but it's so simple that you could do that with anything. You could do that based on a topic, especially topics that some of the best communities in there are the ones that are kind of taboo on like social media platforms. Like if you're into like something like psychedelics or guns, I have a couple friends who are really into guns, and those communities are like, they thrive, right? It's just like,
for sure, it's not Facebook,
right?
And
yeah.
And that obviously we know there's a lot of threshold of pain of when someone loses a Facebook group because they put up their post of whatever that Facebook doesn't like for that day, right?
Yeah, even something as simple as like, I became a Dune fan after the Dune movies came out, and people are fanatical about the books and the author and the history behind it, and like the previous terrible movies that have been made about it and all this stuff. And I'm like, you have 100,000 person Facebook group that's grows on its own, right? Like if I were just a super fan of Dune, like I am a fan, but I'm not a super fan. If I was that passionate about it, I'd get those people in School and figure out a way to monetize it,
Right.
So I think you can monetize anything doing like mirroring the way that I've done it. But I think specifically with high level, the opportunity is just as available for me. I think this is important to note. Like, I think I'm number 7 on the high level leaderboard. There's people who have said, hey, there's this guy Dom, right? He's a young guy, he's in his 20s. He's month over month, I think he has the highest amount of high-level affiliate revenue, and he just attacked YouTube organic.
Yep.
That's all he did.
Yep.
Right. And he's got a different spin. He teaches a different way to have success on the platform. It's just by like using the high-level website templates as a starting place. I've seen other people be fairly successful attacking reviews the same way, right? But everybody's got a little bit of a different spin on it. So Dom attracts a very different type of, affiliate customer than I do.
Yep.
So it's definitely a blue ocean. I mean, there's a lot of people in the make money online space who have a reputation for just selling the latest thing that's hot, but like high levels churn rate is really low, like super low.
Yep.
And the only thing that I found is that the difference between someone sticking years and months is, again, get in that first win on the platform, right? So I think as long as you're doing that, it kind of doesn't matter what it is, right? Like I've just chosen to stick with reactivation as my proven thing, but people have innovated and spun off and made something else their thing, and they've been equally, if not more successful than I have on a month-over-month basis. 100%.
Fascinating. So maybe we could start to wrap this up by talking about the products that you offer, or the services that you offer in the market now, and how people can work with you based off of where they are in their lifespan. And then certainly, you can ask me any questions you want. Well, because I'm sure you have a few that you'd like to ask me. But maybe that's the place for people who are listening to this that have graciously spent their time with us, that you could give them a lead into where they can get help from you and some ideas on what would make sense depending on where they are again, from their perspective of their life.
Definitely. So again, I've been incredibly lazy this year on the business front. The two things that I have that have been open the entire year, and they're not going away anytime soon. I've got a free community with a free database reactivation training in it, which is kind of what I'm known for. So like you can start getting results on that strategy using high level in under an hour. We made it really simple, streamlined, step by step. We show you what buttons to click, all the easy stuff. We also give you like a free campaign library in there, so you're not starting off with I think there's like 72 niches in there, everything from plumbing to pest control to gyms to real estate. And that's just every time I've coached somebody over the years, I've just stuck that in the library for everybody to have. So they're all proven and have been deployed in the marketplace successfully. So all that's just in my free group. It's robbailey.com/group, and I have 2 B's in my first name, so it's ROBBBAILEY.com/group. And that's the group that you're referring to, I think. It's got like close to 9,000 members in it. It grows a little bit every day.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then I have a paid membership site that contains all of my training. So all my IP over the years from running 2 successful 7-figure agencies, and my coaching stuff. I just have it all in there. So it's literally everything I've ever created and taught is in my membership site. It's $118 a month. Price might go up later if I ever get off my butt, but probably not.
You're the only person I know who has $118 for their membership, and I want to ask you if that's because that's 40% of $297, which is the cost of the predicted. Yeah, that's what I figured.
All it is. Yeah, and the reason why I do that is because you can get, it's called Elite. You can get the membership site for free if you use my high level link, and that's another thing that you guys, the listener, should definitely borrow from me. Like, that's worked incredibly well. So I only think I have probably $5,000 or $6,000 worth of people paying for the membership site outright. The rest of the 600 plus that are in there, they're getting it for free because they use my high level affiliate link. And that's why that price point was chosen, was just, it's like, I'm making the same either way. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever's best for you, go ahead and do it. Right.
So just one last question on that, and thank you for alluding to this. But when you're talking about let's just call it group with paid members, and now you've got another residual income. But again, that's different because it's made up of people who are really getting value from a different perspective. How much time do you spend in that school group?
I look at it almost every day. Like unless I'm on vacation or something, I'll pop in there every day. But I've created a system where my VA, if anything needs to be answered, my VA can tackle it first on almost everything. But I've created a system where people don't really expect for me to answer the questions. The value is in the community members themselves. So my whole thing is like, ask the community first because they can get to it quicker. A lot of these people have been following me for years. There's a lot of experienced people in there. And so the quality of the person that's in that group has determined what happens in that group largely. And I've made sure so like one of the things we do is we have a no spam, no self-promotion policy. And I'm in plenty of groups where that's allowed, but we wanted to keep the experience pretty high quality, and quality people tend to not want to deal with spammers in the DMs or constant promotional posts, etc. So we just boot people to do that. It's a very clear rule when you get in the group. And if somebody's like honestly just sort of like didn't read that and tried to do something, we'll like warn them first and be like, hey, you can't do that here. You can do it in any other group you want, but just not here, right? And so that's created a really high quality experience for the people that are in there, meaning it's actually useful to them, right? So I have my VA post the articles in there. I try to get my friends and colleagues and stuff like that to come into the group and teach some too. So I got a handful of calls a month that sometimes I don't even have to show up for. So I'll just, connect my VA with them. They book a time, the VA posts it in the school group. They do the, hour long of teaching, and they usually have an offer at the end for them, but it's really low pressure. It's mostly value driven stuff first. And yeah, there might be a couple of extra things for you to buy, but they're usually like high level add-ons, or like we've got a relationship with Extendly where Extendly does these educational webinars every month, and they usually give people a pretty good deal to get on Extendly for white label support or white label tools. But it's all sort of around the same thing, which is like, how do you use this platform to make money, get more peace and freedom in your life, etc. Right?
That's great. So let's wrap this up. We talked about your general history of the experience of how you came out of that previous agency, jumped into sort of the tail end of your second agency in again, customer number 111 here, talking to you, so I understand where you came from. And then going into the opportunity stage of the things that, whether we want to go the direction of SaaS, affiliate, what levels of experience people probably need in order to do those things, and that relates to both of those topics. And then the last thing is using tools like School to evaluate the best way to commingle and put cohorts of people through processing of getting themselves, I would say, educated and enlightened along with being motivated. And a lot of the accountability probably resounds in that group as well, with people telling their stories and getting other people to sort of buck up to say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it, which is a big thing about that community, which I've noticed. Is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you that you're contemplating?
Maybe just that I think that it's important. So, my best piece of advice I learned from my friend Mike Cooch. So the reason why I failed at making my first agency something that gave me the freedom, the wealth, the recurring revenue, all the things that you go into to start a business. The reason why I didn't really nail that first one was because I didn't ask for help. In other words, I was like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I was working myself to the bone because the model I was working was wrong. And the minute that I hired my first mentor, he described who's Billie Jean, by the way. Mike Cooch, I had lunch with Mike Cooch when he first moved to San Diego. And he said, hey, you got to check out what Billie Jean is doing because you just shut down your first agency. I know your chops are good. I know that, you guys have a ton of experience and everything, but he's doing like $250,000 a month just helping local businesses, right? And I said, well, why did you bring him up specifically? He's like, because he's done exactly what you're describing that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the advice that I received from there, and it's still my best piece of advice to this day, is go consume whatever you can from the person that's done exactly what you want to do, or as close to as possible. So if they have a YouTube channel, digest it all. If they have a book, go buy the book. If they have a coaching program, hire them, it's like whatever it takes, whatever they got, try to consume it, right? And the reason for that is because we live in an age now where information is in such abundance that it's no longer about the information specifically, it's about the insight, the experience, and to be able to see around corners that you can't see around yourself, right? So when you hire someone who's on the exact same path as you, or as close to that as possible, and they're a few steps ahead of you, it's like a North Star. It cuts out so much of the trial and error, so much of the the zigzagginess that it would have taken for you to get there. Time, right? I know it sounds funny if you don't have money, but time is really your biggest asset. I would have said you're full of shit, Rob, when I didn't have money, if I would have heard someone say that, but it's really true. Like, if you take away the opportunity cost, just the sheer frustration that most people quit because they're just like, I tried this and it didn't work. And it's like, cool, but if you just focused your energy into the right place in the right system for the right reasons and understood why you were doing it, you probably would have just taken off and it would have been life-changing for you, right? So my advice is, even if it's not me, especially if it's not me, find the person who's done what you want to do and go learn from them. So if my story is compelling to you, you're welcome to come into my group, learn as much as you can, have a YouTube channel, great, absorb it. If that's not, if my story isn't exactly what you want, go find the person that is, right? And ask them why it worked the way it did, right? So that's another thing. Is like, when I went to Billy, I'm like, why is what I was doing not working? And he's like, well, you're doing custom work for every client. And I said, well, not all the time. Like, some of it's like, we do SEO for clients pretty much the same. He's like, print out all of the line items from your QuickBooks thing, right? Your invoicing software. And I had like 600 line items. And he's like, I have one line item. I sell one product, one type of client, at one price point, and it's recurring.
Yep.
So just do that, right? And so I said, I don't know if you're right or not, but okay. And then 3 months later, I went from 0 to 30 grand a month, all recurring revenue, all super easy clients. They all got the same deliverable. And that's how I started my second agency, which was much more successful. Gave me the time, the money, the freedom, the peace of mind. We were having babies at the time. I spent a ton of time with my family, went to the beach all the time. It's like, couldn't have been more different, right? So I think that's the key with most of this business stuff. Is it is up to you, but the mind F is like, someone's already done this. So I may as well find that person, learn as much as I can from them to shorten the curve, sort of collapse time, and get to the end result quicker. And that's probably the thing that I would encourage people to do the most. And it's hard to, it's like, how would you have known to ask me about that? I just think it's such good advice that it's like, another question that people ask is like, if you had to go back and start over again, what would you do? And I'd be like, I'd do the same thing. Like, the reason why I want to learn from Billy Jean wasn't because of the way he was doing things, like his style on it, or like, he loves cars. I could care less about what I drive. I drive a white pickup truck. He's got Lambos and fancy stuff, but that makes him happy. But when I text him now, it's like, he's like, is your monthly recurring revenue still going up? I'm like, yeah. He's like, dope. That's so good, man. Because I looked at his 250 grand a month recurring revenue and the lifestyle he was living, and I said, I want that. Right? That's what I'm after, is the freedom and the money and the time. And he appears to have it. So if that's real, what can I learn from him to do it my way still? But how can I shorten the steps it takes to get there?
Fantastic. Great time with you today on your side. And we'll take a quick pause here, and then we'll start the other direction if you would like to ask me questions. So if you got time.
To, but I've got to go. I mean, I love talking to you. We can do another one if you want, but I have to go take my mom.
Well, that's what I figured. I was going to say, let's take a quick pause or get another schedule, because this literally happens every single time where we run out of time, and there's so much to cover, because it's almost as if We have a lifeblood of experience to share, and the wisdom is sometimes needs to be defined, explained, and then executed, and that doesn't take 2 minutes. That's kind of a 10-minute per question type of thing. So let's certainly catch up on the next call, and I'll let you run, but thank you so much for the call.
Happy to, buddy. Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you having me, dude.
Yes.